Orson, hey, congratulations for Showdown at the Grand.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
I mean, man, I really love this movie, and it really shows that you are definitely a movie buff. You have like a certain love for cinema after me watching this movie and you making it.
Yeah, I have a very sick and twisted love of this art form that, you know, I should just probably find something else, but I don't know what else to do.
Well, let me ask that obligatory question is where the original idea came from for Showdown at the Grand?
Well, I always wanted to make a movie in a movie theater. Like I remember seeing demons and these movies when I was younger and like just being like, oh, it'd be so fun to, or what was the great Joe Dante one with John Goodman? Whatever. It's so good where the movie theater becomes invaded. But or the Blob and all this. But it actually came during March, April 2020 when we went into lockdown, and I started seeing the theaters just disappearing. I mean, immediately some closed down. We had no idea if AMC was even going to withstand the kind of tumultuous time. And the ArcLight by my house still isn't open. And then all these small theaters around the country never hardly ever came back. So my producer and I were like, let's write something. Like let's look at this. And I also loved action movies as a kid. Like I love these kind of like I grew up on like these VHSs of all the old, Carolco and Canon film stuff. Like that was my happy place. I was like my therapy as a kid. So that's where it was like that's where it came from, and then my hatred of corporations.
My perspective watching this film, I always imagined it was like what Quentin Tarantino would be like after he finally does his final movie and just become a full-time movie theater operator, and that someday this will happen when the developers come in and try to like tear down his own movie
Yeah,
theater.
he's at like the Vista or the New Bev, just sitting there behind the projector. I know. I hope so. He is a real gatekeeper of movie theaters. Though we're lucky to have someone like him who cares that much.
Well, tell us about the theater location that you actually picked for your production. Then, what the vacant theater was it? Was it during the pandemic you
No,
filmed?
we shot after the pandemic. We shot about a year and a half ago, and no, about 15 months. And the theater was the Warner Grand. It's actually a functioning theater, so we had to work in between there. A few things they had, but they're so gracious there. They really let us have the run of the place. They would let us kind of go over. It didn't matter. They were as big a part of the production at a point as we were. And it became kind of like a home for a month or two for us. And yeah, so the Warner Grand, it's in San Pedro. It was built in the 20s. Same architect as the famous Pantages Theater in Hollywood. This was kind of the Warner Brothers version that they did over in San Pedro. And they're actually about to do renovations on it in January. It's going to be closed for a couple of years. It's actually, you can see it in a few other movies, Pearl Harbor, and most recently Babylon. The end of Babylon is in the Warner Grand.
Wow,
So
and and I love how you kudos to your prop decorator, unless you did it. Tell us about all the props that you actually decorated inside that theater for
well,
your.
I gave them an impossible task, and both Doc, my production designer, and his team just did an absolute amazing job. They didn't have much time. They had very little money, and they were just all Laura, him. They were super, just kind of like in that, like I said, called like that classic John Carpenter approach. Like he had an Halloween where they just took the William Shatner mask and spray painted it. Like it was that approach. It was we know we don't have money. Well, these films didn't have a lot of money that we're basing them on. So let's just keep it in that kind of milieu. And they did an amazing job.
So in the case for yourself, because it almost seems like your love of cinema, you dedicated to like an homage to a lot of 70s and 80s film. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, I love a 70s cinema. what is or those that era of film is kind of like where I want to be, like send me back there, because I just find the language and the way that they were making movies was so even the smaller films, they were like rambunctious and they were just done with so much bravado that even if it was like a small little $100,000 movie, they came with like everything at them. They threw everything at the movies. So I love that era. I love the Driver and all the Walter Hill movies, Peck and Pop, Pat Garrett, Billy the Kid, The Wild Bunch. That was kind of the stuff that that really made me love film. And then with the 80s and 90s, that's kind of more like as a child what I kind of then shaped my love of these characters. Being a kid watching a lot of Dolph Lundgren movies, a lot of Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, like those were kind of, those were what was on. And I've seen Terminator like 50 times. Like I love the first Terminator, not the second one, the first one, which I like more. But so all the canon film stuff, Nemesis by Albert Pune, like all those films I felt lived with me a lot longer than maybe some of the more Academy Award fare of that time. Like I never rewatched Ordinary People. I never rewatched The English Patient. But you throw on the Dolph Lundgren's The Punisher, I'm gonna watch it. So yeah.
What was that the reason why you got Dolph? You made a beeline for Dolph Lundgren saying he has to be in my film.
Yeah, it was written for him originally. Like we had to go to some other people because that's the way movie producing works. Is like they're never just like they're like, well, this person will get you more money, yada yada, industry. But I always wanted him. He was who I saw as the character, and I couldn't imagine anyone else doing that job the way he did.
So what was the process like creating these mini scenes out of, the 70s, 80s, and 90s with Dolph Lundgren? And did you have to cut some of the scenes for your film, maybe due to pacing or, the length of the film?
All the movies within the movies made it into the movie because no, I don't think anyone at any point was like, we don't want those, because they kind of keep the movie moving. They keep it that I definitely a lot of the notes I would get in the edit were like, let's get to those because everyone, they're fun. And I think one of the things we learned was like in the edit was not to outstay your welcome with them, leave people wanting the whole movie, not feeling like they've seen enough of this like weird kind of movie within a movie. But they were really fun. We shot them all in 2 days. It was really like it was like this like marathon of, okay, we're gonna shoot this here and this piece there. And everyone was like, well, what's going on? But I was like, don't worry, it's gonna make sense in some crazy way. And we were rewriting to them as we'd lose one location. Like the first scene, was supposed to be, instead of it being like a desert wasteland, it was supposed to be like kind of like a Scarface meets American Ninja type of opening. At one point, it was like a Vietnam, like burning down the village, and he comes to save everyone. But as we got from, we would have to change it for location. We would just change the trope, and yeah, and then Dolph gave us a lot of insight into that stuff because he was there.
Wow, you I have to say you ran Dolph through the gauntlet into so many costume changes and playing so many different characters for your film.
Yeah, no, he was like, oh man, like we would just be like, but he was into it. Like he was making a lot of costume choices as well. Like he would be like, no, no, I'm gonna keep this mustache. I'm gonna do this. He was just everyone was pretty into the process, I think.
Absolutely. Now for Terrence Howard, because he anchors the film as the theater owner. Tell us more about the character and the persona that you wanted Terrence to play, especially donning the tough guy cowboy look.
Well, I think when I started, I wrote it, I approached it. I thought he was gonna be a little more James Coburn, Lee Marvin, kind of this more rough around the edges. And what Terrence brought to it was much more of this innocence, this childlike, where the cowboy look was more just that's how he's dressed since he was a kid, and he's never lost that kind of that kind of like watching Bonanza at home feeling. And he brought a lot more of an emotional core than I think was written in the script, and I just went with it. I just said I want that. Like I don't want it to be a one note, just like tough guy character. Like, and I think Terrence found a really nice balance of the childishness with also the an innocence with also this kind of like a bootstrap American, cowboy frontierism as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is his everyone's performance is actually great. How did you handle the stunt choreography and fight choreography through this film?
A lot of that credit goes to Jackie Gerhardy, my stunt choreographer, and her team. She was awesome. She did pre-vid. She just came really prepared and was also okay with you know, you got Dolph, you got big personalities. They have a lot of experience. She was okay with having to change things and figuring out solutions rather than just being like, there's a problem. It was always about being solution oriented because we knew we had so little time. And then Terrence is super athletic, like he does all his own stunts. So it was pretty, it was grueling, but everyone really like came with solutions to everything. Then my DP Noah Rosenthal just like, helping to kind of support all that and hide the blemishes.
I was gonna say your cinematographer did such a fine job mixing the different type of styles throughout the entire film.
Yeah, he's amazing. And a lot of that was he has a very good relationship with Panavision, who was very supportive of the film and honestly opened their whole vintage vault to us. As a favor to him. So he was very good at picking, we had all this beautiful vintage 60s and 70s lenses, and we tried to really match the time period with the lenses for that time. So yeah, he did an amazing job, and it was a hard task. And then my colorist, I will give it Asa Fox really brought this, pushed it a lot to what kind of the boundaries that you're supposed to have in a film to give those looks and to add all the blemishes and everything around it.
Most excellent. And one more major last thing, because I know we talked about the decline of movie theaters, and I love movie theaters, and it's a it's always close to my heart. But I also when I was watching it, I also feel like this was also sort of like a due to the last action heroes that we are used to, because now today a celebrity action hero only is an action hero for one or two movies and automatically get replaced by the next actor quite easily. And these because the heroes are just franchised, but they could be played by any actors now. Could you talk about the era of the last action heroes?
I mean, we're very much in it. I mean, I do think, I think Tom Cruise is the last one. I don't think we'll ever see people who are devoted to pushing that. I think as a young person, I got to when I was a kid, I think those action heroes allowed me to play a fantasy of a different person I could be or a different life. And I just think in the age of Marvel and super corporate filmmaking, like you said, people don't go see a Marvel film because, I mean, maybe because of Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man, because he brought so much to that. But in general, like no one cares. No one's going to go see another movie because one of the people from the Marvel film is now blowing up something else. And also, I think it's not only the charisma of the star, but it's kind of what action's been relegated to as a kind of second rate film, which I don't think it is at all. I think, I mean, if you look at John Wick 4, I think Donnie Yen's performance deserves an Academy Award. I would like to argue that I doubt that any actor is going to be that physical, that engaged to take on blindness in the way he did. But no one would even have that conversation because it's just the genre itself is kind of lost in this very small mid-tier world now. I guess it's a rant I'm on, but I think it has a lot to do with that. And I think we have to respect it more as that there's a real artistic, and that's why I love the John Wicks, and I think the Fall Guy coming out and Ryan Gosling, like I think those films will hopefully bring back a little more of our kind of action stars. But I don't think there's any young people coming up who are going to take on that gauntlet.
Yeah, the industry has changed, and I hope it returns back because you know, my cinema taste is your cinema taste, so it is terrific. Orson, thank you very much for carrying this conversation, and I love it every minute of your film from beginning to end. So thank you,
Thank you so much. That means a lot. This was really nice.
thank you, appreciate it. Next time, next time. Bye now.